which is motion under gravity. Motion under gravity. What is basically mean by the motion under gravity? Now, if on body only gravitational force effect, no any other force effect, no any other force effect except the gravitational force. So the gravitational force will be effect on that body. By that force the body will be in the motion, if on a body only gravitational force effect, no any other force effect, so by that gravitational force body will be, in the motion. So that is called that the motion under gravity. Motion under gravity means that motion that is influenced by the means of gravity. As I have discussed if on a body only gravitational force effects, that by that force body will be in the motion, so that motion under gravity, which means motion is occurred by the due to the presence of the gravity, so that will be called as the motion under gravity. After that, if force exists, which means if the gravitational force exists on a body, so that will also produce acceleration. How? If a body gravitational force is effect, so that body will be in the motion, so by that motion the acceleration will be also produced. So we can say if the force exists, so the produce of acceleration will be occur. After that, a free falling of any object under the, we can say, motion under gravity is also defined as a free falling of any object under the influence of gravity. Free falling of body under the influence of gravity, which means that free falling body, which means that the body will get in motion under the influence of gravity, so that is called a motion under gravity. After that, if an object thrown upward or object thrown downward, and those released from the rest, which means that if you drop the object to the upward, or if you drop the object to the downward, so the motion will be released, or rest will be released, or you can say motion will be released, so that body will be freely falling, so they are released, then they are under the motion, or we can say under the motion under the gravity, which means if the body is moving downward or body is moving upward, so that will be released from the rest motion, so that will be called as a motion under the gravity. After that, a free falling body object experience acceleration. As I discussed, that it will produce acceleration, so it will experience acceleration in the direction to the downward. It will experience acceleration in the downward direction. So that free falling body that will produce acceleration, so direction will be downward, so that downward direction will be known as the gravity. We can say that acceleration is equals to gravity, right? Because free falling body is producing acceleration downward, so the downward, why it is producing acceleration downward? Because of the gravity, so the acceleration is equals to gravity. If we are moving on the ground surface, the acceleration will be same as the acceleration, but if we throw an object upward or we throw an object downward, so that acceleration will be equals to gravity, because the gravity will be produced to the downward side. So after that, so motion under the action of gravity, under the action of gravity, also known as uniformly accelerated motion. Why? Because as I told that motion under the action of gravity, or we can say motion under the gravity, that is also known as uniformly accelerated motion. Basically, what is uniformly accelerated motion? It is a motion in which where acceleration is constant. Where acceleration is constant, that is known as the uniformly accelerated motion, where the acceleration is constant. So as I discussed, acceleration is equals to gravity, so the gravity will be constant, that is equals to the 9.8 meter per second square. Gravity is constant, so we can say that the motion under gravity is also known as uniformly accelerated motion. So the acceleration is equals to gravity and the gravity is constant, so we can say it is a uniformly accelerated motion. After that, last point is that when an object is dropped from, we can say, from a certain height, so the initial will be equals to 0. How? For example, a ball is thrown downward side, so its initial velocity will be 0 because it's start from initial, so the initial will be 0. After that, we are having one point that when an object is throw upward, we can say if we throw ball to the upward, so the final velocity will be 0. How? That this is a ball, it is move upward, so at the certain point the final velocity will get 0. Final velocity will get here low, then low. At the certain point the final velocity will get 0. So if we can say throw any object to the upward, so the final velocity will be 0. If we throw any object to the from the certain height, so the initial velocity will be 0. Now we will see some numericals of the motion under gravity. Some numericals of the motion under gravity. So here you will see the question. Here the question is, a ball is dropped from a top of tower. A ball is dropped from a top of tower. As I discussed here, that if any object is thrown, or we can say from a certain height from the certain height, so that the initial velocity will be 0. So here initial velocity will be 0 because a ball is dropped from the top of tower from the certain height. So it takes 5 seconds to hit the ground, which means the time is 5. Find the height. We have to find the height of the tower and with what velocity will it strike the ground. It strike the ground, right? So the velocity will be final. So we have to find the final velocity and we have to find the height of that. Now here we will find. First of all, we have to find the height and we have to find the final velocity, right? And we are having time, that is a 5 second, right? Time is a 5 second and initial velocity is the 0. And the value of g, as I discussed, that it is 9.8 meter per second. And we have to find height. Here, if a ball is dropped from a certain height or any object is dropped from certain height, this is a height, say, okay. So here, if it is dropped from height, it will cover some distance. So we can see that height is equals to distance, right? So here for finding height, we have one formula that S is equals to VIT plus 1 upon 2 AT square. Here S is equals to H, so we will find height here. Here Vi, that is initial velocity, is 0 into time is a 5 second plus 1 upon 2 acceleration. Sorry, as I discussed that the acceleration is equals to g, so the here acceleration will be equals to g. So the value of g is 9.8 and time is 5, 5 is square because it's g square. So s is equals to 0 into 5 0 plus 1 upon 2 9.8 and 25, right? So 1 upon 2 9.8 and 25. So the answer will be, height will be the 122.5 meter. Height will be the 122.5 meter. After that we have find this. Now we have to find the final velocity. As here in one formula that the Vf is equals to Vi plus At. Instead of A we will write G, because A is equals to G. We have to find the final velocity, and initial velocity is 0. So G is 9.8 and time is 5. So Vf is equals to, when we multiply these both, so the answer will be 49 meter per second. So the final velocity is here. So there will be many numericals, but here the one point, here was a question that a ball is dropped from a certain height. Okay, if you are having any question that is a ball is dropped from towards the upward, so we will take value of g in the negative. Why? Because it is, as I discussed, that final velocity will get 0 at the certain height. So when we throw any object towards a certain height, so the final velocity will get minus. If we throw it towards the downward side, the final velocity will be in the positive. But when we throw any object on the upward side, so the gravity, value of gravity will be negative, because gravity always affect on the downward side, as I discussed in before. So that was a motion under gravity.